It's time to live life through the eyes of fit people so that you too can live a fit life yourself. This is Fit Because. I'm one of your hosts, Jennifer Zerling, but you can call me Jay-Z. I'm a fitness and age management expert, author, speaker, as well as an international health advocate.
And I'm your other host, George Beater. I'm an entrepreneur, cattle rancher, fitness enthusiast, and a 6-time rodeo champion who has a huge amount of knowledge to share with you in the area of self-improvement.
Oh, he does. Get ready to learn how to bridge the gap between knowing what to do and doing what it takes to become physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially fit.
You ready, Jay-Z?
Oh, I'm ready, George.
Let's dive in.
What's up? We're back for episode 11. I can't believe we're already on episode 11, George. This is insane. Power of persistence.
Yeah.
Oh, again, another great topic. And my favorite expression is winners never quit and quitters never win.
Yeah.
So the power of persistence. Let's dive into this and teach our audience how to persist and not resist the power of persistence.
Yeah, wonderful. I think persistence is really the key to everything we're talking about, because you have to stick with something to make it work, right? And we all have moments that we want to quit. In fact, the very first business mentor I had used to say that anybody can stay excited about a goal for a little while. A few people can stay excited about a goal for 6 months to a year. But a winner will stay excited about a goal no matter how long it takes to win, right? And that's really the difference. In fact, that book, Think and Grow Rich, that I constantly reference.
You would think you wrote it by now.
I know. Well, I've read it enough to where I could pretty much regurgitate the whole deal, memorize big parts of it. But Napoleon Hill, the author, said that as he studied in the particular chapter 9 is called persistence. That was a common quality to all these great industrial giants that he studied between the year 1900 and 1937 when he published his book. Anyway, he said that Henry Ford, for example, both he and Thomas Edison, which they both had their greatest successes when they became friends. It's part of their little circle of support. And of course, we still all recognize their names and know everything about them, and their legacies are as big now as when they were living because of the type of lives they lived. But Napoleon Hill, after studying them for 25 years, having an association with those two men, Thomas Edison and Henry Ford, he said nothing distinguished them except their persistence from other men.
Ooh.
Wasn't their intelligence, certainly wasn't education, wasn't their background. It was just their dogged determination and persistence. That was the only separator.
And look at their legacy.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. In fact, I mentioned to you before that I just love studying biographies. And when you study autobiographies and biographies, you find out that every person that you look to as being an example of success, and no matter what endeavor that you're seeking or pursuing, sometimes I think we undervalue the struggle that they went through to be what they are,
We just see the happy end product.
We do. We see when they've made it. Right?
Yeah.
And so we assume that they're just that lucky percentage of people that don't have the problems that we have, that, fortune has smiled on. But that's just never the case as we study these stories of people's lives and things they overcame to become great. Anyway, Calvin Coolidge, I read his biography years ago, and he was, of course, the president between 1924 and 1928, just prior to the Great Depression. He got out at a good time, actually.
Yeah, no kidding.
He handed it off to Hoover just in time for boom.
And it wasn't his fault.
No, it wasn't. No. He was very conservative, interesting guy. He became politically powerful as the mayor of Boston, and then he became the governor of Massachusetts, and then the vice president, and then when Warren Harding died, he became the president and then won a term by himself. But anyway, his book is a fascinating read about what life was like 100 years ago. Essentially, one thing that we learn from history is that we don't learn from history. They had the same problems then as we have now, and the same issues then as we have now. It's essentially the same thing. But anyway, in that, he has a quote in his book about persistence that he loved to share in some of the speeches that he gave in those days, which he was shy about publicly speaking, but this is one that he liked. He liked the topic of persistence. He said, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent cannot. There's nothing more common than talented men that are unsuccessful." He said, "Education cannot. The world is full of educated derelicts." That's his words, not mine. He said, "Genius cannot. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Determination and persistence alone are omnipotent." That was a quote that he used to, and it really is, it comes down to that. Because if we're solving to be successful towards any end, there's lessons that we have to learn, some of them the hard way along the way. It's not going to be a linear straight line to where we want to go. And we have to persist through those difficult lessons sometimes, and then learn them and keep moving forward. I love, if you've the Rocky movie, and gosh, I forget the number of, because there's so many Rocky movies, but
That's right.
the one where he's training the new prodigy, and he has this talk. You can look it up on YouTube on famous Rocky speeches with his son. And he tells his son, it's not who can punch the hardest. It's who can take the hit and keep moving forward. Who can get punched and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's the person that becomes the champion. And that's kind of like life, right?
Most certainly. And I just kind of want to remind people that it's like, well, how do you do all that? Like, this is why all the episodes previous to this one is so important to master. You know, we just did gratitude in the last episode. We did, you know, an episode on faith. We did an episode on, you know, time management. Like, all of these topics lend themselves to how to, you know, persist.
Right.
Right.
And you have to persist at applying each one of those principles that we talk about, right?
That's right. It all ties
otherwise
together.
they don't work.
Right.
Nothing works without persistence. In fact, Andrew Carnegie, the Steel King, who is the wealthiest man in the world, you know, he's the one that commissioned Napoleon Hill to write the book Think and Grow Rich. He said, persistence to the character of man is what carbon is to steel. In other words, it's the necessary ingredient for success, right? And it's indispensable. You can't make steel without carbon, and you can't make a great man without persistence, or a great woman.
You're right. And I wouldn't have been anywhere without persistence. I mean, I could just give you off the top of my head an example of my master's degree. I literally spent a semester in research methods, got an A. My teacher thought my proposal was phenomenal. When I went in front of the committee the next semester, I failed. They said, this is horrific. You got two variables that you're trying to measure. This is not a dissertation. It's a master's thesis. You need one variable. So I said, what does that mean? They said, you have to redo the whole thing. And I called my mom and I said, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
And she said, you know what? Wipe your knees off, girl, because you're going to go forward. I had to rewrite the whole thing. I had to choose a whole different topic. And though I graduated 3 months later than planned, you know, that was so many years ago, and I still have that degree.
Yeah.
So that persistence is what got me through it. And it was that hardship of feeling completely defeated, but having that person that believed in me, my mother, and just bringing myself back up onto path. So how do people, if let's just say they don't have a great mother like me, for example, how do they get back on path to being persistent?
Well, even if you don't have a great mother like you have.
Thanks, Mom.
You have the ability to surround yourself with a support system.
Yes.
And it's key. So you can choose who you want to be there for you. I mean, that's the law of attraction. You find like-minded people. You find people that want to go where you want to go or are already there. And you surround yourself. You know, the old saying is you will become in 5 years the average of the people that you hang out with in the next 5 years. So you've got to seek out the right people to associate with. That's mission critical.
Okay? And persist to be friends with them for 5 years.
Yeah. And to be persistent, and there's no substitute for persistence, as we said. In fact, Napoleon Hill called persistence your only insurance against failure. It's the only insurance against failure. Is persistence.
Policies
right?
are important.
Yeah, they are. That just means it means you cannot lose unless you decide to quit, right? Because you keep learning and evolving towards your goal.
Yeah.
You just got to keep going. So one of the things that we can do is make sure that our plan is clearly defined. We can't be persistent about where we're going if we're not really sure where that is. And that, again, is where most people never get out of the blocks. is they let life kind of push them into positions that they end up staying. And they don't clearly define exactly what they want life to look like for them. We talked about this in some form in each one of these episodes because we can't start without that, without Napoleon Hill calls it your definite chief aim. What exactly do you, and it's got to be clearly defined.
What's your advice for people who don't have that clarity?
Yeah, that we can't help you until you do it.
Okay.
Because it's your answer, right? The blessing of being an individual is that it's going to look different for everybody.
I love that.
And the world is, we talked about as far as how to change the world by changing ourselves. We talked about the beauty of diversity, right?
Yeah.
And that is true as far as what we want out of life. It's wonderful that we don't all want the same thing. We don't want it to look the same. What is ultimate to me is different than what's ultimate to you, Jay-Z, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's what makes us unique.
But we have to decide what is we want. And it's okay. Sometimes we get paralysis by analysis, right? We spend too much time aiming and we never pull the freaking trigger.
Right.
We just aim all our life and we never shoot.
Yeah.
So it's more important that we create an initial plan and move into it and then start making adjustments. It's like the analogy of riding a bike. You cannot learn how to ride a bike unless you get on it and start going.
Right.
You can't steer a bike standing still. You've got to be in motion towards somewhere.
That's right.
And that's the way our lives work. So that's something that we can't give you, what your definite purpose is. You've got to spend some time, and we talked about this, in a couple of broadcasts ago, that we have to spend the time to visualize what our next best life would look like. When I say next, I mean this is not going to be the ultimate because we're going to decide what would make us happy and move towards that, but we're going to evolve. So hopefully 5 years from now, something bigger looks feasible to us than what looks feasible now.
Well, a lot of things happen even in 1 year.
It does, yeah. Things change.
Yeah, of course.
That's the way life has worked. But once we know exactly what we want, then we're able to persist. That's the beginning point. I'll give you an example of my personal history. In rodeo, a lot of stuff that I've been passionate about. Rodeo is one of the things that's been real fun for me. I've been riding since I was a little kid. I started in junior rodeos when I was 11 and went through high school and college rodeos and amateur and professional and senior rodeos, back to professional rodeos. I've been involved in rodeos riding bucking animals. That's just always fascinated me, that contest between this beast and an individual, because you can't defeat a beast with strength. You have to learn how to counteract the movements of this animal that you're riding, and there's certain technique, and you have to have it all pre-programmed because stuff happens so fast you can't think through it while it's going on. I've always been fascinated by the sport. I don't want to go more into it than that, but
no, but it's nice to hear as someone who's not a rodeo champion. It's like, wow, that's interesting.
It comes with, the old saying in my sport is, it's not if you're going to get hurt, it's when and how bad. Because we're all going to get hurt. These are big animals, right?
But you trust yourself. That's what it boils down to.
And you have to accept the fact that no matter how good you ride, sometimes you're going to get an injury and you're going to have to overcome. Part of being a great rodeo champion is you've got to overcome injury and move forward. So I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Years ago, I blew out my left ACL, which is the primary ligament that keeps your knee together, right? I'd won a rodeo, but this horse was really wild, and the pickup men are the men that ride alongside of you to get you off the bronc. You jump onto their horse so that it will break your fall at the end of the ride, if it's been successful, if you get to the pickup man, hopefully. Well, anyway, it was one of the deals where this horse was really wild, and the pickup man couldn't get close to him, so I had to just jump off the horse at the end of the ride. So I jumped off the horse and I landed at kind of a bad angle with one of my legs straight, and it popped my knee backwards and snapped my ACL. So it was very painful, obviously. I picked myself up. I went back behind the chutes, and the knee just kept rotating out, and I just knew it was bad. So ultimately, I had to get a patella graft and rebuild my ACL, which took me out for a year. The patella graft method of surgery is 9 to 12 months to return to activity. And so there goes your season, right? This happened in the spring. I was done till the next year. Okay, I waited almost a year, always a little early. And I started the next spring going to rodeos. Well, by July, I was riding good again, and I'd rehabbed that knee, and things were going good. Same type of a deal. I was on a horse that was a pretty wild bucking horse, and the pickup man couldn't get to me, and I jumped off, landed on the other leg, snap. There goes the other ACL. And
same injury?
Same injury, other leg.
Oh.
It happened within a year, less than a year apart. Oh. So I just called up my surgeon on the way home. I said,
I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Let's not worry about the MRI and go through the process.
Here we go again.
This is exactly what happened last time. Let's schedule me for surgery. Anyway, those things happened back to back. And then within a year, I was riding again, right? And then it's been one thing after another thing. You know, I got bucked off one time. I landed upside down, my shoulder into the dirt, shoved my shoulder up into my ear, you know, and dislocated, tore my rotator, and had to have my shoulder reconstructed. One time a horse really jerked on me hard, and it separated my bicep completely off the bone. My bicep rolled down where my tricep is.
It's a huge injury, George.
Yeah, so they had to, so I've got like a Harry Potter scar. My kids like this, you can't see it in the podcast very good, but it's like a Z scar in the middle. And they had to reattach the tendon that connects your bicep.
You healed beautifully.
And then they sewed it back to the other side of my arm. I had one ankle I broke 4 times. They finally had to reconstruct it because it was too loose. And I've just had a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it hasn't been easy. It's not like, you know, I'll have people say, man, you make it look so easy. Well, it's not so easy. And there's lots of stuff along the way.
Yeah.
The persistence is I had things I felt like I needed to accomplish. I'd set specific goals for my rodeo career. And I was able to look past the momentary times when I could have picked another sport that had been a lot easier on my body,
yeah,
right?
No kidding.
Yeah. And business is no different. I've had that experience where, I've had devastating blows in business where companies have gone bankrupt that I worked for that just left me holding the bag with off. I had moments where I'd sit in my kitchen, just sit on the floor and say, I don't know what to do now. I think I'm done. I don't see how I can recover from this. I've had those moments where it just seemed hopeless.
Right.
But then I regroup and realize that the only way that I'm ultimately going to bless those people that I'm trying to serve is to keep going and to rebuild and to learn and to evolve and then to build something great that can serve tons of people and make it worthwhile, right?
So, but what did that, like, let's take you back to that kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay. What were the steps leading from that kitchen floor saying, I don't think I can do this?
Yeah.
Like, what did that look like?
I remember like it was yesterday. And in that moment of just despondency and despair, I examined, because it would have been so much easier just to pick a different course. Just say, you know what? I really don't see how I can recover from this. So I'm just going to go into a different business. But then I thought, if I do that, which is my right, then I never will have gotten the flip side of this adversity. In other words, I never will have gotten the reward for the pain, right? I felt like I owed it not just to myself, but to the people that I'm trying to serve, to overcome and to be that phoenix that rises out of the ashes and build something great. And then these devastating experiences will have been a part of the process and we'll just make it sweeter. So I examined my options. And the only way that it would turn out to be a good thing is if I succeeded in what I started to do. And so I just went forward and figured out a way forward, even though on paper, it didn't look possible at the time.
Which is what I think gives you that full credibility. Because somebody who just didn't go through any adversities like you did and just was able to succeed, which is rare, like you mentioned before, I think that is going to make you stronger in what you offer the world, because everyone brings to you problems and now you can align with their problems by stating, oh, you had yours, these were mine, which is why you want to do this podcast.
Yeah. That's what
right?
I want to encourage people, because I've been in some awful situations before. And I know what it feels like to have your heart crushed within you. I know what that feels like. And I know people can overcome. And I know it can get better for people.
Yes.
And I know they can ultimately be blessed that there is that seed of achievement for every adversity that can be bigger than the adversity was. There's a process to work to that point, and then the reward is so sweet. And so I just have this craving to help people that are in the struggle, get out of the struggle, and work their way through it, and then to have something that they're so proud of. And I know they can.
Yeah.
And we just want to be that little part of the support system. The last part of my life, so I have my rodeo career, that I'm still involved with, and then I have had my business career that has been such a blessing to me. And then also I have this ranch life, right? Because I was born and raised on a cattle ranch. Told you a little bit in previous podcasts about it, but
love that. Kept it alive.
Okay, so when I bought the ranch, or the big chunk of the ranch from my dad to retire him and all that,
of course,
the ranch was so unusable. Just imagine my house on the ranch is at 3,400 feet in elevation. So it's in the foothills on your way up to Yosemite. Super steep, rocky, brushy, like thick brush. Like you can't get a horse up through any of it when I bought it. It was 90% unusable, 80 to 90% unusable. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I want to make this ranch something that's viable, something I can pass to my children, something that it can be productive. And so, well, I got to clear up all this brush, but it's steep and rocky. It's not. So I bought my first bulldozer. I bought a D6 bulldozer. They delivered it to the ranch. The guy that delivered it, he said, "Do you know how to drive this thing?" I said, "Just show me how to start it." So he showed me how to start it, right? And then I just started trial and error, learning how to operate a bulldozer. And I've never operated any heavy equipment in my life. And I grew up on a ranch. We didn't even have a tractor, much less a bulldozer or anything like that. I'd never even had any experience. So there was some hazard to the learning curve because I'm in steep country.
Right.
And 4 different times I tipped and rolled down mountains in these bulldozers where I should not be alive. The first time I slid. I didn't know I was on a big rock. I was in some real steep country I got myself into. I was trying to get myself into a better place, and I was side passing this bulldozer. I'm strapped in, I got a roll cage and stuff. They were fitted for like CDF. So I'm skirting above this kind of big rocky formation that's super steep. But what I didn't know is that the soil that I was traversing on was on top of a big rock.
So slippery.
So I went from just going like this to just going 9-0 sideways down this rock like this. And it was about 150 yards to the bottom of this series of boulders.
Wait, isn't that bigger than a football field?
Oh, yeah. So so as soon as the bulldozer hit a seam in the rocks, started rolling.
Oh, my
And I just thought I was dead. I don't know anybody that survived those things. So I knew how far it was down to the bottom of these boulders and that I was just flipping, like this. Anything could kill me. I remember just saying over and over again, just take care of my kids, God. Just take care of my kids, God. Just take care of my kids. Because I thought it was over. I thought I was dead. I'd roll 3 or 4 times, and I can't even tell you what the centrifugal force is like of a piece of machinery like that going down a boulder like this. I'd roll, and then I would fall onto another big, huge boulder. Boom. And it would break my momentum a little bit, but then I'd go again. And I did that all the way down this mountain. Finally, I landed upside down, caught between these 2 big boulders in this big, dry waterfall area. And it was like I had an out-of-body experience. I wasn't sure at first if I was dead or alive. I remember thinking, is this the next life? I was kind of in shock,
Yeah.
Or am I alive? And I got my wits a little bit together. I did not go unconscious during the event, luckily. And I undid my seatbelt and fell down into the top of the cab and then crawled out on top of the tracks that were upside down and just had this really bizarre experience. I felt like that's the first time in my life that I felt like for sure God has something for me to do. Because I'm really supposed to be dead right now, And that's happened 4 different times. It's not like I'm a fast learner.
So the thing tumbled again another time?
Yeah, and worse. Yeah, I've had the worst time, I tumbled way more than 100 yards down, and I'd already cleared everything underneath me, so it was like a bowling alley. Once that thing tipped, and I got knocked out, broke my head open.
So the same bulldozer?
This finger that used to be straight, crushed my hand. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but I was upside down unconscious for a long time. And the blood that had come down from my head, I don't want to get too gory, was already dry. So the doctor thought I'd been probably 20 minutes unconscious. That's a long dirt nap, right?
And what if you didn't wake up?
Yeah, I know. And there was no one around. So I got myself out of there and I'm busted up and
George.
I didn't know where I was. I couldn't remember where I lived. My dogs that were with me, that follow me around when I'm doing dozer work, I told them to go to the truck, and I followed them because I had no idea where I'd parked my truck on that mountain. Anyway, bottom line is, I have had a lot of adversity cleaning this ranch up. Now I have another guy that helps me. My bulldozer work that's much better than I am, but I cleaned up about 1,000 acres of country and made it like a park. I left all the beautiful trees, cleaned up all the underbrush. We treat it every year so it doesn't come back. We used to be able to run 160 head of cattle on the ranch, and now we run 300. And it's beautiful, and it's easy by contrast. I just tell you that because it's taken an incredible amount of persistence. It started in 2005, right? So
wow.
It's taken an incredible amount of persistence to build that ranch, right, to where it is today. But now every day I go from my house down through that field to get to the highway, to get to my regular business job, and I just feel grateful. Every day I feel grateful because of what I endured to get there, right? To get from A to B. Nothing good is easy.
No, most people, George, would retire the tractor or bulldozer after the first fall. But
this is a little bit crude, but there's another. There's a bulldozer operator there that helped get me out of one of those situations. We had to build a road in and pull the cat out. When I tumbled it down in this ravine, and he told me that he rescues bulldozers for CDF. He'd been doing it for 25 years. He said he'd been on 7 calls where bulldozers had rolled, down mountains on fires and things trying to build breaks. And he said they were 7 for 7 fatalities. And he said, and yours went further and was a worse deal than he's ever seen before. And I did it 4 times.
Yeah, so, God doesn't want you yet. So you're
so
here.
I got stuff to do. Yeah, I definitely got stuff to do. Anyway, I don't want to take up the whole time, but that's okay. That's a little bit about my backstory and persistence.
Well, I just that's like so physical and so drastic. It's like anything else in life doesn't even compare to that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I just if I could think about another thing that I've gone through. I mean, again, it doesn't compare to your bulldozer situation. This is like little small potatoes. But I remember in college when I wanted that NBC internship because I was a communication undergrad, and I got a job at Fox, but I didn't want to settle because it was so easy to get that job, but I wanted something I couldn't get. And, we had a very tight communication department, so I knew everybody there. Yeah. And I find out this guy gets into NBC, and NBC tells me that there's no space for me because there's other colleges in the Albany area in New York. Well, long story short, I'm like, heck no, is that guy going to be an intern for NBC and I'm not, right? So I persisted for 2 weeks and I told the news director, you put me on that internship and I'm going to be the best intern NBC's ever gotten, okay? And I had to go along that path and I had to give him exact examples of what I was going to achieve, what I was going to provide them. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing till he said, seriously, I just you're so pushy. Now I'm like, do I not, if I don't bring you on, what if you are legitimately great? He was doubting his own decision and he brought me on. And guess what? I was the best for that semester. I don't know if to this day, but I wasn't taking no for an answer.
Well, I would just say this. People like you, Jay-Z, that have that just determined, I'm going through the wall attitude. Yeah. I mean, you see it in your eyes and you're going to step aside. The kind of life's that way. In fact, Napoleon Hill says that it's almost as if there's a secret guide on your way to success that is there to torture you and to see how tough you are. And at some point just gives up and says, okay, this person is going to be undeterred. Go ahead and have whatever it is you want. He said it's almost like there's a secret guide just making sure you want it bad enough. That's what life seems like. Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I went through the same thing when I was at the Sports Club LA, which is a 5-star health club. I came to California. I'm like, if I work at Sports Club, I'm going to be a manager for them. And I had to go through 8 interviews, George, 8 interviews for several weeks. And I had to sit in front of this corporate woman who stared me up and down, unimpressed with who I was for my last interview. And she's like, do you have any questions for me? I'm like, yeah, when do I start?
I love that. I love that.
And she did not crack a smile, nothing.
And do you notice the common thread here is you knew exactly where you were going. See, so that's step 1.
Yeah.
So just real quick, a couple of ideas.
Of course.
Because time's getting long. Okay, We have to know exactly what we want. That will help us be persistent, right? And we have to keep revisiting that. Remember, we put it on a card. An unwritten goal is a wish. We have to have it down.
Yes.
And we have to revisit it at least twice a day.
Don't think it, ink it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have to create a plan. We can't just say we want something. Build a plan just based on what you understand now. And because you're going to be able to manipulate and alter your plan as you gain knowledge and as you recover from mistakes and things. But always have a plan in front of you. In fact, great people I've learned are always doing two things. They're always reading a book and they're always writing a book. Okay?
Ooh, love that.
You're reading something to learn and to grow and to be, and you're writing your experiences, even if it's just your journal. You're writing a book and you're reading a book all the time. Great people are doing both, okay?
Yeah, and with that plan, just to add to that, you also have to, especially people interviewing for jobs, you have to know the company. A lot of people don't know companies. Do the research, know what their mission statement is, know what they're looking for, what they stand behind, which is why I got all my work that I ever wanted.
Yeah.
You know, you have to understand what you're going into, and that's part of the plan.
Right, and there's going to be some faux pas along the way, right? You're gonna, well, once in a while, you'll follow the wrong person. You got to recover from that. That's okay. That's part of the learning process of life, right?
Yes.
And then the last principle, aside from knowing exactly what you want, being that clear, writing it down, getting a plan, and then move into the plan, right, is to make sure that you create a support system. You talked about your mom always believing in you. If people see it in your eyes, there's going to be people that are going to believe in you, right?
Right.
And find out who those people are, or assess, not maybe find, you already know who they are. Assess who they are and spend time, stay connected to them, and don't stop loving the people that aren't necessarily supportive of your big plan.
Yeah.
But you don't have to spend extra time with them. Love them, support them, wish them well, right? Bless them constantly in your
100%.
prayers and your thoughts, right? But don't hang with them. Hang with the people that are going to make you better, that are either going where you're going or in the similar direction or already there. Because the birds of the feather fly together thing is really true.
Yes.
You have to be around the people that are going to be supportive of your plan. And just don't quit. And again, at the end of the day, all those horrific experiences that you have to persist through are what make the reward incredible. That's what we're going to nobody's going to die wishing they wouldn't have taken the risks that they took. People are going to die wishing they'd have taken more risk, right?
Yes.
You're going to think of the things you could have done, but you just didn't,
right?
I mean, so just get out there, be persistent, learn your lessons, recover, right? Just go again.
Believe in yourself and never
yourself.
quit.
I got one quote, and we got to quit right now. Okay, can I give one quote?
Of course.
Okay.
Throw it in.
If you want something bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your peace and your sleep and your time for it, if life seems all useless and empty without it, and all that you dream and scheme is about it, if gladly you'll sweat for it, fret for it, pray for it, if neither poverty nor cold nor famine nor gaunt, nor sickness and pain of body and brain can turn you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, guess what? You'll get it. That's it.
This has been Fit Because, hosted by Jennifer Zerling
and George Veter. Be sure to follow us on social media at Fit Because Show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And for past episodes, be sure to visit our website at fitbecause.com.
Also, please subscribe to our show on iTunes and be sure to rate and comment. You may always request topics for our subsequent episodes.
And if you love this episode, please share it with someone you love so that we can continue spreading our mission to help people be fit.
Until next time, take care of yourself and know that your future is
Fit Because.